Okay, here we go. Here's our first Dame's rocket right in front of me. Good aroma coming from these.
Wow.
What is up, my friend? Today I'm taking you on one of my lunch walks here that I like to do to go look for wild edible plants. And we're gonna look at a plant that's completely new to me that I've been watching over the last few weeks and that I randomly stumbled on one of my walks here, and that is Dame's rocket. So other foraging YouTube channels that I've watched that talk about this plant say that it is insanely delicious and one of the best wild edibles you can harvest in the spring and early summer. And it's actually highly invasive, so you can harvest a lot of it without having to feel bad. Plus, it grows very prolific, and in my spot here, there is indeed a ton of it. Now, like I said, it's completely new to me. I have been kind of watching it the last few weeks, trying to identify it, you know, seeing it throughout its growth stages. And I've been waiting for it to flower, because the flower, I think, is always a great ID factor to look for. It often is like the final ID factor I look for when learning about a new plant, to help me distinguish it from its lookalikes. So ideally, this plant is harvested in its first year of growth. It's a biennial. So like so many of the other plants we've already talked about here on the channel and on the podcast, a lot of the wild edible plants are biennials, 2-year growth cycle. And the first year they usually grow in a basil or basil rosette on the ground. And that's really the best time to get the leaves from Dame's rocket. Forager Alan Burgo, who is an awesome guy and has also been on my podcast Year of Plenty before, described it as being like arugula but more sweet. So it's a mustard family plant in the brassica family, and at this stage now that I'm looking at it here, it's in its 2nd year growth and it will have flowers. Looked at it a few days ago, but I'm hoping to find some unopened flower buds, because those unopened flower buds are really what you want to eat at this stage of its life cycle. They're supposedly kind of like a broccoli head, like a broccoli floret, and taste really good. So hopefully we still find some. Like I said, when I was looking at the plant a few days ago, most of them had already gone to flower. But we're just going to see if they're worth their hype. And, you know, maybe next year then I'm going to come back a lot earlier to the spot and try to actually gather the basil rosette leaves and see if they really are like arugula, like a sweeter version of arugula, which, me being from Germany, we eat a lot of arugula over there. It's a pretty big like plant that farmers grow and you can get at farmers markets and whatnot. So I'm just gonna keep walking over there, take you guys along, and let's check out this plant. Alright, so here's one of my spots on this public land piece that has the Dame's rocket. You might already be able to see some of the flowers back there poking through. This patch is inside of these willows and this really high grass. So at first sight, it looks really beautiful. They're really beautiful flowers that look like they should be in a garden, honestly. I just want to real quick just talk about following your curiosity when you're foraging. And then we'll go in there and take a closer look at the plants. So I didn't go out to find these plants. I was just kind of walking around a few weeks ago, you know, on a lunch walk like I always do in this property. And I was just looking for plants that I already knew. But then all of a sudden, this one plant really caught my eye. And I was just kind of meandering through some of the trees. And there was this one plant that sunshine was kind of illuminating within the trees, you know, like within the bushes. And it kind of looked like nettles to me. So I went up there to see if I had just found a really good nettle patch. But turns out it was the Dame's rocket. It was a plant that I'd never seen before. So instead of just, you know, seeing that they were nettles and then turning around to look for other plants I knew, I kind of just followed my curiosity and took a bunch of pictures and decided that I would go look if this plant was edible, because there was so much of it. I was like, wow, if this were to be edible, I'd have a lot of food here. So that's what I did. I took a bunch of pictures, ran it through my Plant ID app, and it told me Dame's Rocket, and the Plant ID app said not toxic to humans. So then I moved on with my research and went online and looked up Dame's Rocket and the scientific name, and lo and behold, it's edible, and there's other videos about it already. So I just kind of went down that rabbit hole, and turns out I found, you know, a delicious wild edible. So my big point here being, when you're out there, don't just look for the plants and mushrooms you already know about. Always keep an open mind and be willing to expand your horizon, because I know it's hard, it's difficult. Like when you're out here foraging, you kind of put this filter on, these blinders, you know, trying to focus on the plants you're looking for, you already know about, and kind of blending out all the other plants that are out here. But if you only do that, you might be walking past the next motherlode of a new wild edible that you didn't know about. So yeah, now we're gonna go in there and take a closer look at these plants and hopefully harvest some of the unopened flower heads. Let me get the camera quick and I'll show you these flowers. Okay, here we go. Very high grass. Here's our first Dame's Rocket right in front of me. Purple flowers. I have read that they can have all kinds of flowers, at least like purple to kind of almost pinkish, and then white. And some of these over here do have white flowers. Let's keep moving. Gotta watch out for ticks out here. So here we got a whole patch of Dame's Rocket. So here you can tell 4 flower petals in like a crucifix shape. That is, I guess, a factor, or like an ID factor, that a lot of mustard plants have. And the lookalike wild phlox actually has 5 petals, so we can already eliminate the wild phlox. Here is a Dame's Rocket with more white flowers. And right here are unopened flower heads. So what I'm looking for is more unopened flower heads like this, ideally a big bunch of them, so they can be kind of cooked up like broccoli. Let's take a closer look at this specimen here. You can see the leaves. It looks like we got little bumps. We got a protruding vein on the bottom, and the leaves feel very soft. They don't seem super fibrous to me. Here's another good example. You can really tell that these leaves are alternate, but you know, sometimes they look opposite, so this is kind of interesting. Here they're growing opposite of each other, but along the stem here they're kind of alternate. So I've read that they are indeed alternate, but that is interesting to me, that right here, just this little outlier here seems to be growing almost opposite. Here you can see the old flower stalk. At least that's what I assume it would be from videos I've watched. You can look out for these old flower stalks to find the first year basil leaves when they're growing as a rosette before all this vegetation grows up. If I look around, I might be able to find some, but right now I'm just interested in the unopened flower heads. So looking around at first sight here, I don't really see very many unopened flowers, but let's keep moving, see what we can find. Here, for example, we have a flower head that has not fully opened yet, and that's what we're kind of looking for. So I'm going to harvest this. Let's bring it into the light a bit so you can take a good look. So you can see it's got tiny hairs on there. And it does kind of look like broccoli, doesn't it? Pretty cool. Just gonna see if I can get a bunch of these and then we'll cook them up later. It's kind of fun to be in a flower patch like this. Man, if I would have actually known about this plant already and came here before they started to flower, I would have made out like a bandit on unopened flower heads. And I might also harvest just some of the tops, like some of the tops of the flowers, because this seems pretty, you know, tender to me, and I feel like you could cook up the tops of these flower stalks pretty well as well. So definitely, when you're in a big patch like this, be careful and make sure, make sure you are harvesting the right plant. It would be easy to accidentally grab something else. The flowers smell pretty good. And here's another one. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of these have a lot of hairs on them, and the flower stalks too. You can kind of see the stalk here has got little hairs on it, but then some of them, like this one over here, doesn't. There we go. This one is kind of unique out here. I'm seeing several branches off the main stem, and if you look closely, there is green flower petals. They look like they're starting to they look like they're turning pinkish purple here. And I saw some other ones like this, but leaf wise and just how the heads look here, I'm pretty sure this is also Dame's Rocket. So if I'm wrong on this one and you know a lot about this plant already, drop a comment below and tell me that I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is all the same plant. Okay, so I picked a few, not a ton of them. I picked them with some leaves and flowers on there so I can show my girlfriend Lindy too later, kind of what more of the plant looks like. I'm not trying to get a ton of these right now anyway. I'm just trying to see if this is even a plant worth gathering for me. So I'm gonna go back to work, put this Ziploc back in the fridge until I'm done, and then later tonight I'm gonna cook them up and let you guys know what I think. Back at home in the kitchen, had a quick stop at the gym, and now we're gonna cook up our Dame's Rocket tops. So I kind of trimmed them a bit, took some of the leaves off, took some of the flowers off. Like you can tell, not all of them are perfectly closed and they're not huge, but I think they'll be tasty. Haven't tried them yet. If you check here again, now you'll see the flowers maybe a bit better than outside. Here's an unopened one with some of the leaves around it still. Well, I think I'm gonna try them raw first, just to see how they taste raw, and then we'll cook them up in our saucepan here. So let's give them a taste. Really good, actually. So there's definitely that sweetness that everyone's talking about, even in these flower tops. Most of the videos I've watched talk about the sweetness in the leaves. Let me try the rest of this flower stem. Also really good. So you can definitely use that top tender part of the flower stem. Kind of tastes a bit like green beans and broccoli. There's a little bit of a broccoli kind of flavor. It's interesting. So raw, approved by me. I like it. And you can kind of tell it's like broccolini, like we kind of talked about while we were outside. So let's cook some up though. Got some Primal Kitchen avocado oil. Make sure if you get avocado oil, you get a good quality one. I'm gonna use avocado oil just because it's more neutral, I think, compared to like butter or even coconut oil, and those are really the only three plant oils we cook with. Well, butter isn't a plant oil. But beyond, like, when it comes to animal fat, we use butter, tallow, and lard in this household. But that's about it. No seed oils for us. So let me just heat some of this up. I'm going to use a good amount. I like to fry my wild veggies, not wedgies. Oh my god, my German accent. It makes me like stumble sometimes, you know. It's like I realize myself saying stuff and I'm like, that wasn't right. What do you have to say about this? What do you think? Is it waffles approved? No? Oh, you want it, but it's mine. No plans for you, good boy. No treat for you. I think it is waffles approved as well. He's a carnivore dog though, or so we like to think. He loves his elk scraps. So let's see if this is good enough here. That's good to go. Turn it down a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, but nothing else. I want to get the actual flavor of the veggie here. Got some Redmond's real salt. Good aroma coming from these. I wonder if the flavor will change when I cook it now. But I think these would make for a great garnish, even raw, like on top of a salad, or if you're serving some sort of meat. So while this cooks, I'm also going to just sample a flower to see if there's any other flavor. Man, what does that remind me of? It reminds me of a veggie. Let's see if Lindy here behind the camera knows. Here, give me the camera so I can feed you. It tastes like a veggie we know.
What the heck is that? Sagey, maybe rosemary?
All right, let me
I feel like there's an actual vegetable that has that flavor. Like from my childhood that I cannot for the life of me place right now.
We'll come back to what that flower tastes like because I need to figure out. But these are looking pretty decent. Check them out. Hi. What do you think? I think those are good enough to be sampled.
Heck yeah.
Starting to brown. All right, check it out. Got a little crisp on them. Oh, wow. That's really good. It's almost like chips. Then you're going to have to try some of these. This is very good. I think this plant lives up to its hype. I mean, I haven't tried the leaves yet, but just these tops here. Let me give Lindy the mic.
Wow, that first bite was like buttered popcorn.
That's it. Popcorn. I don't eat enough of those processed foods anymore to know.
That tastes like straight up buttered popcorn. What?
Lindy wants more. Good?
Holy crap.
She's impressed.
That actually tastes just like buttered popcorn.
What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm so happy you asked me that, Mr. Interviewer Man. Solid 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
11 out of 10. If I had a whole bowl of this, like at a movie night, I would eat the whole bowl. Throw some raisins in there. Little chocolate chunks. Like let it cool down. Wow.
All right, gentlemen. Now you know that Dame's Rocket is the key to your lover's heart. Wild popcorn, basically. That's awesome. I was totally off with chips and crackers. You're right. It is popcorn, Lindy. Yep.
I may have eaten a lot of them. They might be my new actual favorite wild veggie. As long as we don't die. you know, first time trying it. I highly doubt it. But you never know. Maybe I'm terribly allergic. No, this is actually like my new favorite wild veggie that we found. For sure.
I wouldn't agree with my favorite, but it's up there.
It's really not your favorite?
I mean,
this tastes like buttered popcorn.
As a popcorn replacement, yes. Like, I haven't had popcorn in so long, which is why I couldn't.
I mean, maybe that's why we think it tastes like popcorn. I haven't had popcorn in probably 5 years.
You're right. It tastes like popcorn.
Right? Yeah. Is it part of the corn family?
No. So I would say foraging success. New plant. Check.
Lindy approved.
Lindy approved. Poldy approved. Waffles even approved. Lindy does make a good point. If you do try a new wild edible, you know, always just do a little bit.
Yeah, I did a lot.
It's still a little bit. Like, we're not eating a whole plate full here.
That's true.
You never know how you're going to react to it. So just take it slow. That's good advice, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we'll have to get more. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.